Hi, I'm Alexa and thanks for tuning in today. We're going to be talking about winter sowing, how to start plants in the dead of winter. It's middle of January right now and it is cold outside. We have had 20-degree Fahrenheit temperatures for the last couple days. Today it's slightly warmer, it's 37 degrees Fahrenheit, but here in my greenhouse it is a lovely 63 degrees. I don't even have to wear a coat. It feels really nice to be in here. The sun is shining. So this is the day that I'm going to be working on winter sowing. So when we're talking about winter sowing, what does that even mean? I have a variety of flower seeds that I would like to start now, even though it's snowing outside. And I have some old containers, like this is an old ice cream container. I have milk jugs. And I'm going to show you how I'm filling those up, what we're doing with the seeds, and then where these go, because I am not going to be keeping them in my greenhouse. So to get started, I am going to go ahead and make sure all of my containers are prepared and ready to go. You want to make sure that whatever you are going to be planting in, there are holes in the bottom of it. So I took a knife and just jabbed some holes in. You could also use like a wood burning tool. I've seen where people use that. Just anything to make sure there's holes in the bottom so that way water can drain out. If you are using milk jugs, you're gonna want to cut around half of the jug. Okay, I'm gonna cut half the jug, and then we're gonna fill the soil, and then we're gonna tape it all back together. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just cutting around this jug. So it's not very pretty. It doesn't have to be. The whole point of doing like this winter sowing is it's easy. We're supposed to be easy, cost effective, not necessarily pretty. So I've got my milk jug cut here, and I'm gonna fill this with soil. And then after the soil's in, the seeds are, I'm gonna tape this back together. And what we're doing is making a greenhouse. We're gonna make a little greenhouse effect with this jug, so it helps retain more heat so your seeds can germinate when the temperatures get to a point where they're going to naturally want to germinate. So here are some of the containers I'm working with. Like I said, ice cream buckets, milk jugs. This was an old Easter basket. Look, a Folgers coffee. I've got all kinds of things here. I have these milk jugs that the kids brought home from a school Arbor Day project last year. So the tops are already cut off these, but I'm gonna cover these with plastic, and I'll show you that so we can repurpose these jugs even. So you can do this with whatever kind of, you know, household materials you have to recycle things. Again, it doesn't have to cost a lot and doesn't have to be pretty. Okay, so next we are going to fill our containers with soil. I am using a potting mix. I have this organic natural potting mix. It's a Miracle-Gro brand. It was on sale at Home Depot for $5 a bag. They're usually like, I don't know, between $10 to $12 for one of those big bags. That's a 32 quart bag, usually like 12 bucks. They were on sale for $5, so I got 3 of them. I kind of wish I got more. Good deal. And then I like to stretch my potting soil a little bit by adding peat moss in with it and mixing that all up. I find it makes just kind of like a lighter consistency, especially when you're starting seeds. You don't want your seeds in anything that's too heavy, so I like to get the potting mix, mix it up with some peat moss, and I usually have a nice fluffy potting mix soil to use for my seedlings. Okay, it is 69 degrees Fahrenheit in here, so it is feeling really nice. And just gonna fill my containers here. And I'm not gonna fill this to the brim. I think I'm gonna fill about 4 inches. Okay. So I've got my first container here filled. We'll do the ice cream jug. So I've got my seeds here in my hand, and I am just going to lightly sprinkle them on the top and kind of press them in, but I'm not gonna like cover them very deep. I just want them to be kind of just lightly resting on top of the soil. Okay, and I'm just gonna tap it down. Okay, so you can see the blue seeds in there. The reason that these seeds are blue is because they're pelleted, meaning there's a coating on the outside of the seeds. Since the seeds are so small, when it gets coated on the outside or pelleted, it actually makes it a little bit easier to pick up and plant it. So I got a handful of soil, and I'm just going to sprinkle that just lightly on top, just to lightly cover it. I don't want to put a ton on top. It was just a tiny sprinkling. And so now that one's done, I'm gonna label it and move on to the next. This one is neon calendula. So they're seeds that I had saved. And I really like these seeds because they look like, they remind me of seahorses. Kind of craggly looking. But calendula is really, can be used in a lot of ways. So when the flowers bloom, you can save the flowers and make all kinds of herbal medicine with it, or salves, lotions, even soaps. Calendula can be used in many different ways, and I just started to save calendula flowers last year. And so I want to grow more this year so I can save a lot more flowers and make stuff with it. Okay, I have all of the seeds that I'm going to be winter sowing today in their containers, and now it's time to wrap them up and cover them. So for something like this that has an open top, I'm going to use just this kind of, this old piece of plastic I have to cover the top and tape it and poke some holes in, because we do want water from the sky to be able to get into here, you know, just drip light water. We don't want to like pour a ton of water on the seeds here, but we want some water to get in. And by covering these containers in such a way, we're kind of creating like a little greenhouse effect for those seedlings. So one, is going to protect them from getting washed away through the harsh weather that we're going to have for the next couple months, and two, when the temperature is right for that kind of seed, it's going to harness the heat inside that little makeshift greenhouse, and it's going to help that seed germinate and grow. Now, if you're wondering, how do these seeds survive such cold weather, especially when some of these are frost tender, meaning these plants can't live when it's cold, this is the beauty of nature. So when these seeds in nature fall to the ground at the end of the season, you know, the flower dries up, the seed inside dries up, and then falls to the ground. Then it experiences a winter just like everything else here. And in the spring, when the temperature, the ground temperature and air temperature is right for that type of plant, it will sprout up. It will emerge, it will grow into the plant. That's basically what we're mimicking here with the winter sowing. We're just kind of containing the growing space in such a way that we know what that plant is. Now, if you had a variety of perennial or annual seeds that you threw out into a garden space in the fall and let them sit over winter, there's a good chance that they would do this, what we're doing today, on their own. They would come up and sprout on their own. So that is a very, very natural way of winter sowing. But this way is, you know, it's fun for the gardener, especially if you're like me and at the end of the last season, you're not really thinking about the next season, you're tired and you want a break. But now in January, when we have some nicer days, I get that gardening itch. And so this is a really nice way to fulfill that. So I'm gonna take my duct tape here and get a good bit. And I'll just start with this water bottle. Just gonna tape it closed. Again, this does not have to be pretty. I'm doing this winter sowing as a way to kind of get ahead for the new season, as well as save on money, because I don't want to spend a lot of money buying plants at nurseries and all that. And I'm gonna take the lid off of this bottle, so I'm gonna leave the lid open. I'm not gonna cover this because I do want some water, rainwater, and moisture to get into this. So this one's done. I taped it up, the seeds are in, I've got a label in there, and this is all set. All of the milk jugs and water bottles are taped here, and then the rest of the containers are open. So I'm going to cut pieces of this plastic and then put them over top, tape it, and poke some holes in. And a little scissor challenge sometimes, being a lefty. Okay, and there it is. It's taped up. It's not pretty, but it's functional, and the seeds are safe inside. So I have all of my containers covered with the plastic, duct tape, poked holes in. I did run out of plastic right at the end, so I'm even using a white grocery bag here on one of the milk jugs. So we're gonna see how well white grocery bag does. And now I'm going to take all of these and put them outside in the yard in the snow. They are not gonna stay in my greenhouse. I am not going to worry about watering them or caring for them in any way until our temperatures are probably in like the 50s to 60s consistently, because that's when these are going to start to germinate. Once it gets warm enough outside for these seeds to naturally want to germinate and come to life, that's when I'm going to start paying attention to them. Because when those seedlings sprout their first true leaves, that is when they're going to be ready to be planted out into the garden. So let's get these outside. So one other thing to mention when we're doing the winter sowing is that when we place the containers outside, they need to be completely exposed to the elements. We don't want them under a porch. We don't want them under any kind of awning. We don't want them close to a house or a structure. We want them out in the middle of a yard somewhere, out as much as possible, away from any type of surrounding structure, because those seeds in there, they need to have the full force of Mother Nature upon them, because that is what is going to make them strong, hardy little seedlings and get them to come up and sprout probably a little bit earlier than if you had started these from seeds, like, you know, in your house or just out in the yard on a nice spring day. These winter sown seedlings are going to be tough little guys, and they are going to probably grow maybe even better than some of the other flowers that you would grow in the springtime when the temperatures are warmer. So you really want to make sure they're out in a location that is exposed to all elements. So thank you for joining me today as we did some winter sowing. I feel good that I'm gonna get a lot of flowers out of these and be able to fill up the space behind me in front of my greenhouse. I'm gonna make like a cottage garden in this area, and so I have lots of pretty things that I'll be able to put in them. Be sure to subscribe so you can see how these plants do later on this year. I'll do an update video in the spring once they start to germinate and it's time to plant them back there in the garden, my cold snowy garden. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you like and share it out to your friends. Now, if you have done any kind of winter sowing, I would love to hear about it. I have seen some beautiful setups of how people do their winter sowing, and with all kinds of different containers and methods. I mean, when we're talking about gardening, there's not always a right or wrong way to do something, and there can be 100 different ways people do something like this. So I am really wanting to hear your experience of winter sowing. Have you ever done it? Do you want to try it? And if you do try it, let me know how it goes. Could be a really fun activity to do with children. So if you have kids or grandkids, they might actually like to do this quite a bit as well. So take care, everyone. Stay safe and warm, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.